The 21st session of the Senate in the second regular session of the 16th Congress is hereby called to order. May we request everyone to rise for a minute of silent prayer. Thank you. The Secretary will call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Smeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Trilon.
17 senators are present. The Chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the 20th Session, 15th of September 2014, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? Hearing none. The reading of the Journal of Session number 20, September 15, 2014, is hereby dispensed with, and the same is hereby approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will read the reference of business.
Bill on first reading. Senate number 2409, entitled An Act amending Republic Act number 8485, otherwise known as the Animal Welfare Act of 1998, introduced by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Agriculture and Food.
Resolutions. Senate Joint Resolution number 10, entitled Joint Resolution Extending the Period for Filing of Claims for Reparation of Human Rights Violations Victims under Republic Act number 10368, otherwise known as the Human Rights Victims Reparation and Recognition Act of 2013, and in consequence thereof, the existence of the Human Rights Victims Claims Board by Senator Escudero.
Committee on Justice and Human Rights, Finance.
PS Resolution number 914, congratulating and commending the Philippine Army Dragon Boat Team for winning 2 gold medals in the 9th International Dragon Boat Federation IDBF Club Cruise World Championships in Ravenna, Italy on 3 to 7 September 2014 by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
PS Resolution number 915, congratulating and commending the Philippine Dragon Boat Team for winning 5 gold medals in the 2014 International Canoe Federation ICF Dragon Boat World Championships at the Malta Regatta Course in Poznan, Poland on 28 to 31 August 2014 by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
PS Resolution number 916, congratulating Reggie Ramirez and Asmin Martin for winning at the International Powerlifting Federation World Juniors and Sub-Juniors Championships at Orosasa, Hungary by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
PS Resolution number 917, directing the proper Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the situation of the victims of the siege of Zamboanga last 9 September 2013 with the end in view of instituting measures to holistically address the needs of victims of any kind of armed conflict by Senator Lapid.
Justice and Human Rights.
PS Resolution number 918, directing the Senate Committee on Health and Demography and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that there are high levels of lead paint used on imported children's furniture that pose serious health risks on children by Senator Lapid.
Health and Demography.
PS Resolution number 919, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on ways to prevent illegal waste dumping from overseas in light of the botched importation of mixed hazardous garbage from Canada by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Environment, Natural Resources, Foreign Relations.
PS Resolution number 920, directing the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Food to look into, in aid of legislation, the status of the country's cacao and chocolate industry and to tap its full potentials for the purpose of recommending measures to boost local production and provide livelihood in the countryside in the light of a projected world deficit in cacao supply. Senator Grace Poe.
Agriculture and Food, Finance.
PS Resolution number 921, directing the Senate Committee on Civil Service and Government Reorganization and other pertinent committees of the Philippine Senate to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the growing crisis in the country's nursing profession, such that corrective measures shall be crafted and or remedial action shall be undertaken to once and for all address the concerns, problems, and or issues perennially affecting the profession by Senator Trillanes IV.
Health and Demography, Labor, Employment, and Human Resource Development.
Communications letter from the Malacanang Records Office transmitting to the Senate a certified copy of Executive Order number 171 dated September 5, 2014 entitled an Interagency Committee to oversee the review, implementation, and monitoring of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC.
Foreign Relations, Finance.
Letters from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas transmitting to the Senate copies of the following certified and authenticated BSP issuances in compliance with Section 15A of Republic Act number 7653, the New Central Bank Act. Circular letter number CL 2014-044, 45, and 46, dated 23 July 28 August and 3 September 2014. Circular numbers 845, 846, and 847, dated 15/22 and 28 August 2014, and Memorandum number M 2014-34, dated 27 August 2014.
Committee on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies. Majority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider proposed Senate Resolution number 868.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of proposed Senate Resolution 868 is in order.
May we request the Secretary to read the title and the text of the measure?
The Secretary will read the title of the proposed Senate Resolution.
PS Resolution number 868, Resolution commending the Integrity Initiative, a private sector-driven effort which aims to both institutionalize integrity standards among all sectors of society and fight the culture of corruption, and to urge the government to require all private firms engaging in business with it to sign the initiative's integrity pledge, which is a commitment to adhere to ethical business practices and to support a national campaign against corruption. Whereas corruption is the greatest impediment to good governance, transparency, and accountability in any nation, whereas corruption jeopardizes the welfare of the nation because it obstructs the rule of law, stunts economic growth, aggravates poverty, results in political instability, and engenders the culture of patronage. Whereas recognizing the deleterious and extensive effects of corruption to society and the need for ethical leadership, Integrity Initiative was established to institutionalize integrity standards among all sectors of society and to fight the culture of corruption. Whereas integrity is not only the absence of corruption but a way of living that should be adopted and espoused not only by those in government but also those in business, academia, media, non-government organizations, and the whole of civil society. Whereas the Integrity Initiative promotes good governance and transparent business transactions by encouraging supporters to take the Integrity Pledge, which is a formal and concrete expression of commitments by companies to abide by ethical business practices and to support a national campaign against corruption. Whereas the recent pork barrel scam perpetrated by conspiracy between certain government officials and non-government organizations is a case in point of how the lack of integrity breeds corruption, which thereby makes the cause of the Integrity Initiative more pivotal. Whereas private sector initiatives such as this reignites hope for the nation and helps the government restore the trust and confidence of its people. Whereas a commendation is in order for the founders, participants, and supporters of the Integrity Initiative. Whereas the government should support the Integrity Initiative by demanding that all private firms entering into business with it should first sign the Integrity Pledge. Now, therefore, be it resolved, as it hereby resolved by the Senate of the Philippines, to commend the Integrity Initiative, a private sector-driven effort which aims to both institutionalize integrity standards among all sectors of society and fight the culture of corruption, and to urge the government to require all private firms engaging in business with it to sign the initiative's Integrity Pledge, which is a commitment to adhere to ethical business practices and to support the national campaign against corruption.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize the author, Senator T.G. Gingona, to deliver his sponsorship speech.
Senator Gingona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Although, Mr. President, I really did deliver my sponsorship speech, I would just like to ask for a minute to make a video presentation so that we can...
Session suspended for 1 minute.
no, so that we
sorry.
can send,
Sorry.
not to suspend.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Senator Gingona. I thought you were asking for a 1 minute suspension. Session is resumed.
Just to show a video presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
What is integrity? Most people say it's a steadfast dedication to a code of ethics. But most people don't realize how crucial integrity is in nation building. Integrity isn't just about a code of ethics. It's about doing the right thing even if no one is looking. Imagine how life would be if we didn't bribe, cheat, and steal. Wouldn't life be so much better? But we must first practice integrity from within. We must practice this in our daily lives and be a shining example. But you can't do it alone. We all need to practice integrity. This collective action will help improve the Philippines, allow fair competition, and finally end the vicious cycle of corruption. Together, we can effect a culture change and build a nation known for its integrity. Show initiative. Show integrity.
Senator Gingona is recognized. Still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since I already delivered my sponsorship speech last time, I yield the floor back to the majority floor leader.
Mr. President, I move that we approve proposed Senate Resolution number 868, subject to style.
Any objection? Hearing none, proposed Senate Resolution number 868 is hereby adopted.
Mr. President, before I move to suspend to allow us some time to congratulate the awardees, I would like to formally recognize the members of the Integrity Initiative. We have Chairperson Ramon Del Rosario, who's also the chairman of the Makati Business Club, Mr. Michael Rober, who is the Vice Chairman of Integrity Initiative and Chairman of the European Chamber of Commerce. We have Henry Schumacher, Program Director 2 of Integrity Initiative and Vice President for External Affairs of the European Chamber of Commerce, and Ms. Nonette Climaco, Program Officer of Integrity Initiative.
The presence of Mr. Ramon R. Del Rosario Jr., the Chair of the Integrity Initiative and the Chairman of the Makati Business Club, and his colleagues in the Integrity Initiative are hereby recognized, and their presence is made of record.
Mr.
Thank
President,
you, gentlemen.
I move that we suspend the session for a minute to allow the senators to congratulate the awardees and for a photo op.
All right. Session suspended for 1 minute.
Sen.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 712 under Committee Report number 58. This is the mandatory PhilHealth coverage for all senior citizens bill, Mr. President.
All right. Consideration of the measure is in order.
Mr. President, the status of this measure is that we are in the period of interpellations. So I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator T.G. Gingona. And to interpolate, I move that we recognize the acting Senate Minority Floor Leader, Senator Soto.
Senator Gingona, the principal sponsor, is recognized. To avail of the period of interpellation, the Minority Leader, Senator Tito Soto, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the distinguished gentleman yield to some questions for my clarification on the bill?
Certainly, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Bill 712, the Expanded Senior Citizens Act, intends to erase the term indigent, and instead mandates that all senior citizens shall be covered by the National Health Insurance Program of PhilHealth, which shall be sourced from the National Health Insurance Fund of the PhilHealth. Now, my simple question is that, is this feasible?
Yes, Mr. President, it is feasible. Right now, based on the survey, NSO survey, we have roughly around 6 million senior citizens. And PhilHealth records show that they already have covered 3.9 million senior citizens. These are classified either as indigent, lifetime member, or sponsored member. Therefore, that just leaves us a total of 2.16.
2 million?
Yes, 2 million.
Mhm.
It's still not covered by PhilHealth, Mr. President.
Well, my next question then is that how much will that amount to? The National Health Insurance Fund, is it capable of sustaining the mandatory PhilHealth coverage for all senior citizens, the additional 2.1 something? Mr.
Yes, it
President?
will cost around 5.1 billion, Mr. President. And the National Insurance Fund will be capable of covering it, Mr. President.
How much is the actual average cost of each senior citizen, Mr. President?
Well, the annual premium contribution would be around 2,400, Mr. President. Therefore, that would be 2,400 times 2.16, so roughly 5.1 billion, Mr. President.
Wait, did I get you right? Is that the cost? Is that how
Yes,
much?
yes, that's
it
how much it
costs?
will cost, Mr. President.
No, on the
Five.
average now. On the average, how much do we spend for the senior citizens?
Well, the annual premium contribution is 2,400, Mr. President.
2,400 is the contribution, but
Yes.
How much does PhilHealth spend for a senior citizen on the average? Hindi, meron ng ballpark yan.
Cost of PhilHealth for where is it here? 4,000. The
Oh, it
cost
does,
of
it
the
does.
cost
Again.
the cost of providing insurance is around 4,036 pesos, Mr. President.
Meron ba tayong limit, Mr. President? What is the maximum that we can give a senior citizen
What's the maximum?
for his coverage, hospitalization, what have you?
It depends on the case rate, what they call case rate packages, Mr. President.
What if it's a heart bypass?
$550, Mr. President.
550,000.
1,000, yes.
Mr. President, well, I think that's good enough. No, 550,000 for that time for a bypass. No.
Yes, Mr. President.
I distinctly remember when Senator Drilon was still the Senate President, was still the chairman of the Committee on Finance. There was a question asked by Senator Recto during that time on how much the funds of PhilHealth is. Yung kompletong pondo nila, how much do they have? And how much do they spend per year?
117 billion, Mr. President.
Yun yung reserve. Savings yun. Ha?
Assets 135, reserve 117 billion.
135 assets, 117. Because Senator Osmeña earlier was asking me, he's wondering how you can make money. But you are. No? You are.
Yes, Mr.
And
President.
big.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, how much does PhilHealth spend in a year? For senior citizens only, para
senior
confined ako.
citizens.
Baka sabihin budget hearing itong ginagawa ko.
5 billion. 5 billion. Around 5 billion, Mr. President.
5 billion for the senior citizens. Yung 2,400 nila, how much does it amount to? Sa 3 million, 0.9, 3.9 million senior
2 million,
citizens.
Mr. President. 2
Two
million.
lang.
2. 5 billion, Mr. President.
Ano ba talaga?
Can we have a clear answer for the record?
No. The question was for the 2,400
Okay.
annual premium, how much is that aggregate amount?
How much is the aggregate for ano lang?
So,
addition lang. ng
2,400 times 2.16 million.
Anong
No. I'm talking about the current senior citizens that is being
The current.
funded by total nun 3.9 million sila sa 2,400 per contribution. Magkano total nun binibigyan nila sa atin sa PhilHealth? Addition lang yun, Mr. President. May calculator ka ba dyan?
9.45 billion, Mr. President.
9.45 billion. And you spend 5.1 billion for them only. Ano? Yes, for the 3.9.
3.9 times
1 minute, Mr. President.
1 minute suspension.
Lifetime yung, yung...
Nine.
That's the amount spent by PhilHealth. All senior. Ano itong 9.45? Okay. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
5.1. Session is resumed. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, the total amount of claims paid for senior citizens, those presently covered, is 13.8 billion. 13.8 billion, Mr. President.
And their total contributions is 9.45.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. So 135 in assets, 117
Sige.
is reserve money
Yes, Mr. President.
ng PhilHealth. Sa isang taon, the total, in 1 year, the total for the entire contributions is how much? That we receive from everyone that is covered, not only the senior citizens.
From everyone, Mr.
Yes.
President. 55.4 billion, Mr. President.
55.4. And how much does PhilHealth spend for in a year?
For everyone, Mr.
For
President.
everyone.
Ano yung 55.4? Ito yung 55.6 benefits payout, Mr. President. Halos break even.
Hindi na kumikita ngayon. Ha?
Meron pong interest income,
May interest income na 6 billion.
6 billion.
6 billion. Sorry? Okay.
The chair recognizes Senator Recto to assist in getting the answers on record. Because the chair
I will
itself...
appreciate that, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I would just like to manifest that this is a product of the bill of Senator Recto.
Mr. President, the PhilHealth, we have the financial statements and we can put that all on the record, but the interest income, at least last year of PhilHealth, is roughly about 6 billion. So that is part of their income stream, Mr. President. Their net profit last year is roughly 2 billion. And the government provides a 35 billion subsidy for this year and next year roughly 37 billion, coming from the sin tax which the Senate President authored, Mr. President.
So the government subsidize or subscribes to PhilHealth, pay subscription to the extent of 37 billion.
37 billion next year, 35 billion this year, roughly 14.5 million families, or 75% of all families in the country.
Subsidized by government.
We call it the sponsored members.
That is correct.
Okay. 75%. The 25%,
25% should be from the members' contribution, yung payroll taxes na kinakaltas in the sweldo of all public and private sector employees.
okay, thank you,
Among
Mr.
others,
President.
Mr. President.
So dati kumikita, Mr. President, malaki kita. Ano?
Yes, Mr. President. Dati kumikita.
Malaking kita, kaya merong 135 in assets, billion in assets, and 117 available funds. Okay.
Yes, Mr. President.
With this new bill or new law, Senate Bill 712, masasaktan ba yung yung coverage o yung income ng PhilHealth?
Hindi po, Mr. President. It will still have enough funds for financing the 2 million senior citizens that have not yet been covered.
Okay. I just want to hear that assurance also from you and Senator Recto. And by the way, I just want to make it clear, I am in favor of this bill. I'm just trying to get clarification. Your bill aims to transfer the source of funds necessary to enroll all senior citizens to the PhilHealth coverage from the LGUs to the National Health Insurance Fund of PhilHealth. Yes, I understand that is...
No, no, Mr. President. We just plan to the purpose of this bill is to
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President. The purpose of this bill is just to cover those that have not been covered under the sponsored program and those who are indigent, since they're covered already, the lifetime members. So those who are not indigent, those who are not lifetime members, and those who are not sponsored members, that totals around more or less 2 million. And the purpose of this bill is to include them in the program, Mr. President.
All right. Now, as far as that point I was raising, the source of funds, it will no longer be, it will be amended, I was told by Senator Recto. Is that right? You will remove it from the current bill?
Source of funds,
Then I don't need any explanation if you're removing that.
yes, Mr. President.
You are? You are removing it?
To be clear, Mr. President, what are you asking? Source of fund?
No, the bill, you aim to transfer, through the bill, you aim to transfer the source of funds to enroll senior citizens to, from the LGUs to the National Health Insurance Fund of PhilHealth. Hindi na.
Huh?
1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Suspended for 1 minute.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. I understand. You can say you just... Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
In answer to the previous question, yes, we are removing it, and it will be answered by the syntax, Mr. President.
Okay. Therefore, I have no longer, I have no more questions in that case, Mr. President. I wish to thank the two gentlemen for enlightening me on the intentions of Senate Bill 712. Thank you.
Just a clarification from the chair. Is there a provision of the present law which requires the LGUs to pay for the premium for senior citizens?
But it's not mandatory. There is no provision, Mr. President, that makes it mandatory.
There is nothing in the law which requires the LGUs to pay
Yes, Mr. President.
the premium, PhilHealth premium for senior citizens.
Yes, Mr. President.
So, and they are paying, the local government units are paying these premiums out of what obligation? I mean, is there a MOA? Is there a what?
On their own volition, Mr. President.
Sorry?
On their own volition.
On their own volition.
Yes, Mr. President.
I see. So these are voluntary acts of the LGUs to cover senior citizens?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Recto, can you assist us?
We're not amending the PhilHealth law, Mr. President.
Yes.
Yes.
Senator Recto, please.
Yeah, Mr. Senate President, what we are amending here is the Senior Citizens Act, Mr. President, by making it mandatory that all senior citizens shall be covered by the National Health Insurance Program administered by the PhilHealth. Now, essentially, bayad na to, Mr. President, from the sin taxes as well.
Yes.
80% of all incremental revenue collected by government through tobacco and alcohol, based on the provisions of the Senate President, should be released to PhilHealth to cover universal health coverage,
Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes.
So, we are deleting that phrase in the Senior Citizens Law na dati ang LGU pinakikiusapan to pay for some of the premiums. But right now, the LGU's role will be to improve the hospitals, not the PhilHealth insurance kasi bayad na yun. So yung LGU, what we envision is that health enhancement naman sila on the supply side of the health. Mr.
Well,
President.
I was reviewing this proposed measure. Indeed, as correctly stated by Senator Recto, we are trying to amend the expanded Senior Citizens Act of 2010, Section 5 of which provides for mandatory PhilHealth coverage,
Correct.
which the LGUs are required to allocate funds
Correct.
to ensure the enrollment of their indigent senior citizens. And therefore, what we're just doing is to cover all senior citizens, regardless of their economic status, and charge it to the
PhilHealth,
to the National Health Insurance Fund,
that is correct.
insofar as the non-indigents are concerned.
That is correct. The effect of that is that all senior citizens will now be covered,
That's correct.
mandated.
Yes.
There will be no distinction, rich, middle class, or poor. Similarly, in the senior citizens law, walang distinction sa 20% discount. Whether rich, middle class, or poor, walang distinction. There is no discrimination whatsoever, Mr. President.
And if you're a senior citizen, you're a registered voter, I assume.
Yes, because you're above 18, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other colleague of ours who wish to avail of the period of interpellation?
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 712 under Committee Report number 58.
Are there still reservations for interpellation, Mr. Majority Leader? Okay.
With the permission of the Acting Majority Floor Leader. Mr. President, I do have a reservation, and I don't mind asking a question or two, although I don't feel well today, so I was going to ask tomorrow, but I
All
was
right.
already listening
Okay.
intently. But if it doesn't matter to the sponsor, I'll just ask my questions tomorrow.
Yes, Mr. President. Perfectly all right, Mr.
Yes.
President.
Yes. All right. So then we suspend the period of interpellation and suspend consideration of the measure. Any objection? Hearing none.
Mr. President, before we move to our next interpellation of the day, I'd like to acknowledge earlier they were here, no? But just for the record, DAR Secretary Gil de los Reyes and Undersecretary Jose Gragueda from DAR were here, so we'd like to recognize them. Oh, they're still here. There they are.
All right. The Secretary of the Department of Grand Reform is recognized, and his presence is made of record.
We'd also like to acknowledge, Mr. President, the Federation of the Royal Sultanate of Lanao members. These are Sultan Mahmud Dalidi, Sultan Saaduddin Talib, Sultan Monsing Makabando, Sultan Al-Quareb Odal Abidin, Sultan Fahad Mamakal, and Sultan Saad Makarampat.
The Federation of the Royal Sultanate of Lanao is hereby recognized. Their presence is spread in the records of the Senate. Welcome to the Senate, gentlemen.
Mr. President, I move that we now resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2400 under Committee Report number 74. This is the Sugarcane Industry Development Bill.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
Mr. President, the status of this measure is that we are currently in the period of interpolation, so I move that we recognize the sponsor, Senator Cynthia Villar, and to interpolate Senator Sergio Osmeña.
Senator Villar, the principal sponsor, is recognized on the period of interpolation. To avail of the period, Senator Sergio Osmeña III is recognized.
Mr. President, would the kind sponsor yield to a few questions?
It's my pleasure to answer the question of our gentleman from Cebu.
Before the gentleman proceeds, can I ask the technical people to raise the level of the microphone of Senator Osmeña?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this act shall be known as the Sugarcane Industry Development Act of 2004. I'm curious, Mr. President. We have always recognized the industry to be the sugar industry. Are we not limiting our options now by just specifying that it is a sugar cane industry?
Mr. President, when we call it the Sugarcane Industry Act, we are not limiting the use of sugar, but we are to just sugar, but to other products also. But the benefit of this act would predominantly accrue to the sugar cane farmers. So we are not giving any benefit to other sector of the sugar industry, only to the sugar cane farmers. That's why we entitled it the Sugar Cane Industry Act.
That is correct, Mr. President. However, on subsequent pages, the sugar cane industry has included other industries such as alcohol, ethanol, and so that would be a contradiction, would it not?
Mr. President, I don't think so, because we just mentioned the other uses of sugar cane, but we are not giving any benefit to these other uses. We are just talking of the benefits to the sugarcane farmers, but we want also to diversify the other uses of sugarcane, and we are mentioning these other things because this will give additional income to the sugarcane industry, and that would be benefiting the sugarcane farmers. But it is not in the bill, and the bill is not talking about these other uses and how they will be done. It's just that we are mentioning that we are going to maximize the use of sugarcane resources.
Now, the regulatory agency and the promotion and development agency that will be in charge of this fund is known as the Sugar Regulatory Administration, is it not?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. President.
It is not known as the Sugarcane Regulatory Administration.
There is no such thing as Sugarcane Regulatory Administration. It's the Sugar Regulatory Administration. But we will create a committee to decide on how this fund will be dispensed with, and that would include the Sugar Regulatory Administration, but it will be represented, there will be representation from the different sectors of the sugar industry who have knowledge of the sugar industry and who can decide what will be best for the sugarcane industry. So we're open to suggestions on who will compose this people or this committee or this board who will decide what will be what we will do with the sugar cane industry fund, so that we will have a broad representation of people who can understand the plight of the sugarcane farmers.
Again, I would like to point out that they have somehow included other industries, such as the ethanol industry. Will this now be under the direction and control of the Sugar Regulatory Administration?
Mr. President, it will not. We just mentioned the other uses of sugarcane, but this will be another story, and there is nothing in the bill which will touch these other uses, except that we are just pointing out that if we can make use of sugarcane in other uses, then that would be beneficial to the sugarcane farmers. But the SRA or this board or the money that will be put into a fund will not benefit these other uses of sugarcane.
Will the SRA also be able to direct the disposition of sugar towards refineries, alcohol plants, ethanol plants?
Mr. President, they're not interested to do that.
So a free market will still...
Yes. Because we think the people who will, or the companies which will engage in that are very knowledgeable company, and they can really take care of themselves, just like what's happening to the sugar miller, that they really take care of themselves.
I'm talking about the small farmer. I'm
If
talking about the farmer, say, if he gets 70% sharing from the mill, will he be told, and that is allocated by the SRA, no? A, B, C, D. Do we still have E? And E. And will they be able also to tell the farmer, you have to sell so much of your B sugar to the refiner, to the trader, to the ethanol plant?
No, Mr. President, their only concern is to allocate the the sugar out of the sugar cane, not other uses. They will be limiting themselves to the different kinds of sugar, but not the other uses of sugar. I think the other uses of sugar, if it will involve energy use, then that will go to the...
What do you mean by kinds of sugar, please?
The different kinds of sugar are, we have the raw sugar, the refined sugar, the molasses from sugar cane, and Moscovado, the different kinds of sugar.
No, they cannot allocate that, not even today.
No, they allocate what will go to
the markets. They
to the
allocate
markets.
A, B,
Yes,
C, D,
they
E.
allocate the amount of sugar which will go to the world market. They allocate the amount of sugar which will go to the U.S. quota, and the amount of sugar which will be sold domestically. So there are only 3 allocations so far. What others?
A, B, C, D, E. There's reserve sugar. What does E? Ano E?
The sugar for food processing, but that it would be under the sugar for local allocation.
No, that's not part of the B sugar. You know, that's E sugar.
Okay. What number is that? Oh, that's e-sugar that is allocated for export processing.
No, I think it's allocated to the local food processors, di ba? Export. Okay. Would that be a different price than the D sugar
What
or
is
or A
what is
sugar?
the D sugar? Oh.
D is world market, no?
Yung E for local. So they are sugar which can be for world export, and they can be given to the local processor, but they will be exported also.
Very good. Now, on page 2,
Of the bill.
your second paragraph reads, for purposes of this act, the program is the consolidation of small farms which are 5 hectares or less,
Mhm.
including farms of agrarian reform beneficiaries, as one larger farm with an aggregate area ranging from 30 to 50 hectares within a 2-kilometer radius. So it must be 5 hectares or less. What about if you have only 5.5 hectares? Hindi ako
Then
sasali
you
dyan.
go to the other classification,
Which is
5 hectares above. And you are not entitled, if you go, there should be a cutoff. And those above will not be entitled to the, what we will give to the black farmers. Because this is called the Black Farm Program. It's 5 hectares and below.
And if I have 6 hectares, I cannot be part of Black Farm?
No, that's the cutoff. But you can also consolidate, but as a private, a different program like the different support, like those 5 hectares and above will be entitled in the next. In this program, farm support program for other farms which are 9 hectares or less, but more than 5 hectares.
9 hectares or less.
But not, but do not that are not eligible under the Black Farm program.
Okay, under the Black Farm program, you're going to have mechanization.
Yeah,
You're going to have,
30%.
you're going to have irrigation if you can afford it.
No, irrigation and farm to market road will be the work of the DA.
Farm to mill roads.
Farm
That's how
to
they
mill
call it.
road. Okay.
All right.
So that would be in the budget of the Department of Agriculture. But this one will have other products, other support services such as. Nasaan ba yung Black Farm? Black Farm. So we just read the section 2.
Section 2, yes.
It's section 3. Black Farm Program for sugarcane farming and other which will be implemented by SRA, DR, and DAR. And of course, the fund would be implemented by SRA. The program is consolidation of small farms, and we will give them machines. We will give them farm inputs. We will give them production support. We will give them volume purchase inputs, financing, and other operational advantage, and also the capability building on the workers. So this kind of things which will enhance the efficiency of the black farms.
Mr. President, I find it difficult to believe that it is possible to organize contiguous or semi-contiguous areas and limiting yourself further to 5 hectares or less. It's difficult enough just to get 50 contiguous hectares together or within a 2-kilometer radius. So it will be inefficient. It will be
The-
really inefficient if you have a tractor jumping from one farm to the other just because they're within 2 kilometers. I leave it up to the implementers. But what I'm concerned about is a guy has 5.1 hectares, hindi naman siya isasama dito, even if he's right beside the guys who have 5 hectares. That to me doesn't make sense, because it would be even more efficient to use, say, a tractor if you've got a bigger expanse of land, like 5, 10, 20 hectares, than only if you have 5 hectares in one corner of a barangay and then another 5 hectares in about 100 meters away. So I'm hoping that we can do away with this 5 hectare limit if the good sponsor would consider a proposal during the period of amendments to do away with the 5 hectare limit, because it doesn't make real sense to me. I think we should make it more important to recognize that how contiguous the farms are, because that makes it much more efficient.
Mr. President, we will be very happy to accept any amendment so that this
Any amendment.
in the block farming. If you can make a better suggestion on how we will be able to do this better.
Now, on line 11 of page 2, there's perhaps it's the phraseology, but the sentence reads, such activities in small farms are aligned and implemented to ensure the efficient use of farm machineries, agreed, and equipment, comma, deployment of workers, comma, volume purchase of inputs, comma, financing, comma, and other operational advantages such as recognition of sugar mills. In this particular phrase, recognition of sugar mills, I don't understand what is meant by this. What do you mean by recognizing a sugar mill?
They have this, Mr. President, they have this concept that development of farms is built around a sugar mill. So they have this Mill District Development Council. I think that is what
That's
it's
not
meant.
that's nothing new. I mean, it's always developed that way.
Yeah. So
the
I
mill
think
is always where
that's
where
how
where
I
the sugar is.
understand this recognition of sugar mills.
No, I don't think.
Can I
Yes.
ask for a recess?
1 minute suspension.
So,
You need a motion to resume, Your Honor.
yeah, we can resume now the interpellation. We ask that the floor resume the interpellation.
Session is resumed.
I think the meaning, there is a different way of phrasing it, and it has this, and I think the gentleman from Cebu
And Negros.
understands.
And
Negros,
Negros.
yes. Has understood the phrase, and we will just rephrase it as recognition by
By
sugar
sugar
mills of the planters.
Can the chair hear that? Okay. Recognition?
By the sugar mills. It's not recognition of sugar mills.
Because, Mr. President, to clarify, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes.
Your Honor, the agreement is usually between sugar associations and the sugar mills. And they tend to forget the little guy. So
Planters.
this part of the program will assist the little farmer in being accepted
By the sugar
and
mill.
having his sugar milled by the millers, by a particular mill.
So, Mr. President, we changed the phrase from off by.
During
by.
the period of interpellation,
Yes.
we will introduce that. Now, the cap of 50 hectares. Why are we limiting it to 50?
Because
If you can consolidate 200 hectares in one barangay, why not? Will you have four
Okay,
50-hectare
Bayon,
farms there?
I think, Mr. President, I think they put a cap because they think that it is more manageable if the size would be 50 hectares. But if there is another opinion that it will be better if it's larger, then we are willing to consider that. But the industry said that 50 hectares would be more manageable for black farming.
I think
As a
that
start, okay.
I believe, Mr. President, that putting a cap is not going to operate in the way they would want this thing to operate. I would rather leave it up to them to determine what that cap would be in a specific place. Because if I can consolidate 500 hectares, I'll be jumping up and down for joy. They'll be able to hire professional managers with that kind of economies of scale.
Mr. President, they are open to increasing this cap. It's just that they feel that 50 hectares is a good size to start on.
It's very hard to amend the law, Mr. President, and we know that. I would rather leave it up to the discretion of the SRA, and I don't see any purpose in putting a cap. Let the SRA put a cap year to year. No? If 50 hectares is working, they might say, okay, next year let's start. Let's expand this to 100 or 150. Now, the reason for this is the main purpose of this bill is to bring down our cost of production.
Yes.
We cannot increase our selling price because we are subjected to the law of supply and demand, and essentially there are lower cost producers out there, in particular Thailand.
Okay.
So therefore, the more we cut our costs, the better off our farmers will be.
So, Mr. President, I would like to suggest that we don't put a cap and we just state it in the IRR, and if there is a change in the future that the cap as stated in the IRR will be, we have to change it, then there is no need to amend the law. So is that what you're saying,
That's
Mr.
right.
President?
What I'm saying, furthermore, Mr. President, is that you had earlier stated that your
List down
advisors
changes.
feel that 50 hectares is optimum.
Yes.
I don't think we should put a cap, but would like to leave it to the discretion of the SRA what they want to start with.
Yeah. So
And
we will.
if we put it in the IRR, then it will mean meeting again with whoever drew up the
Okay.
IRR. So let's just put it in. I suggest respectfully that we just put in the law that
Can we
for
put?
areas at the discretion of the SRA.
Can we put, Mr. President, a minimum cap and the maximum is not anymore stated?
No, Mr. President, that doesn't make sense to me either. Why will you put a minimum? The SRA will be the first one to say you can't have a 5-hectare block
No,
farm.
no. Minimum nga is 50. Then you can go to any size after that.
Minimum 50.
50 50.
You
Ayaw
had
nga
30.
ng 30.
We can have a minimum of 50.
Oh.
But kung meron lugar dyan na 45 lang,
O
ano
30.
sasabihin?
Would you like a minimum of 30?
Okay.
yes, minimum of 30 will do.
Okay.
Again, it's really up to the discretion of the
Okay.
SRA. They are the managers. They will be the ones to know which particular area can take 50, 100, 150. It all depends also upon the lay of the land, no?
So, Mr. President, you're agreeable to put a minimum, but not a maximum.
Yeah. Minimum of 30, maximum would be up to the SRA.
Thank you. We accept that, Mr. President.
Thank you, Your Honor. On line 16, there's a phrase, funding for needed production inputs,
Where's
technology adoption, livelihood and skills development activities for the black
Can you
farm.
just, Mr. President,
That's
put
line 16
the-
on page 2 of your bill.
Okay, page 2. I don't have lines, eh. Okay.
You don't have lines.
Yeah, this one. Okay. Line 16, funding for needed production inputs, technology adoption, livelihood skills, development activities for Black Farm and its member, and other support activities that may be identified.
So, is livelihood and skills development activities one phrase? There's no comma after the word skills?
I think it's one phrase.
All right.
Or is it a different phrase?
At the proper
One
time,
phrase, one
I
phrase.
will propose an amendment
Okay.
which will make it read livelihood and skills training, comma, and other development activities for the black
Okay.
farm.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Now,
Gusto mo na yun.
on line 23, there's a word that says collaboration, in collaboration with DI, DAR, and other government agencies. What in essence does collaboration mean?
Because there are programs also of DAR, which are helping the black farmers.
So there's
And there-
coordination. you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah. And there is also a program ng DA which help the black farmers. So this is not limiting the help to them that will come from the Sugarcane Development Fund, but we will accept also the help of DAR and the DA. So it's para hindi sila magdoble. At least they will coordinate so that the help would be different from each other, baka magduplication.
Would not the word you use, coordination, be more accurate than
Okay.
collaboration?
We can accept that if it is more understandable. Okay?
My next question falls on line 27 of page 2. The first few words read, recommend after 3 years the cessation of the program. Now,
For an individual, Mr. President, for an individual black farms, let's say this black farm, you have helped them for 3 years, but they haven't done anything to improve themselves, then we go to another black farm. I mean, we give priority to those black farms which can really improve themselves, and we give them 3 years to really make something out of themselves.
Now, Mr. President, sugarcane is not a sure thing. When I used to plant it, I'd estimate that I'd lose one crop every 7 years. Typhoon, floods, etc. So if somebody has only 3 years and he has a bad crop, that's it. He's gone. Now, a sugarcane plant cycle is about 3 years. There's the new plant, then you ratoon, first ratoon, second ratoon, and some people go to third and fourth ratoons. But the yield is not too good anymore after that. So why don't we make it 6 years so he's given 2 cycles? Otherwise, kawawa naman yung farmer.
Okay.
Okay, 6
We
years.
accept that,
during the
Mr.
period of
President.
amendments,
Yeah.
we'll propose that 6 years.
Siya kasi ang sugar planter, hindi man ako. Ikaw kasi ang sugar planter, di naman ako eh.
That's why I'm trying to assist you in improving. On
I
the
should
bill.
be asking you about housing.
Low cost or high cost housing.
Everything.
Okay. On page 3, Your Honor, line 4 reads, other incentives and support from official development assistance, in parentheses, ODA.
ODA.
How on earth do we access ODA? ODA is usually given government to government. Although I will correct myself, ODA is also defined as any loan that's below a certain rate of interest. That's the OECD definition.
Okay. Mr. President, there is a new program of the Department of Agriculture, PRDP, which was given by the World Bank,
So that's
$500
government to
million.
government, Department of Agriculture.
Yeah. So they hope that they will become a part of this program also.
They hope.
Yeah.
I hope
That's why.
also. All right, and here in this, provided that the next line, line 5, provided that sugar mills, bioethanol, distilleries, and other markets of sugarcane shall provide market access priority to SRA certified block farms. Now, Mr. President, that is mandating that ethanol mills buy from farmers producing on those block farms. I have a feeling that this is not going to be very fair, and this interferes with the market as it is. Because normally we buy from traders.
Mhm.
And I don't think the trader marks there that this is from a block farm and not from a block farm. Or this is from Miss Villar's farm, and therefore we have to buy it.
They want Mr. President, they want the block farms to be certified so that they will be
Certified
given
by whom?
by SRA, so that these good block farms will
Certification will be on the KEDAN? Where will the
No,
certification appear?
it's a certified block farm, and they want that any certified block farm will be given also priority by these other these sugar mills, bioethanol distilleries, and markets of sugar cane.
Let me clarify that a bit further. Will the KEDANs be issued in the name of the block farm, or will it be issued in the name of the individual farmer?
No, the KEDAN will be issued in the name of the block farm.
I see. So therefore, the block farm manager will be trading those KEDANs.
Yes.
And since they will be certified, whoever is authorized on behalf of the block farm to trade those KEDANs, which are warehouse receipts for sugar, as you know, the mill or whoever else buys it, Coca-Cola or the ethanol plant, will have to give priority. How will we police that? How will we police that when the guy says, I already have enough? So we will have to police the mills buying. Because here I'm only talking about the. I'm sorry, I've got that mixed up. I'm not talking about the sugar going to the mill.
It's the sugar cane.
The sugar cane going to the mill. I'm talking about the KEDAN. Wait.
Walang KEDAN, no? It's the sugar cane.
No, because it says the sugar mills.
No, it says here they are
This is the
talking
cane. This is the
of
cane.
the sugar cane
Okay,
going
okay.
to the sugar mills, bioethanol distilleries, and other markets of sugar cane. They're
Yeah.
talking of the sugar cane here, not
Sugar
the
cane. I'm
sugar.
sorry. Okay.
Just
Is
a
that
question,
correct?
Senator Serge, if I may. Did I hear the sponsor correctly that the KEDANs will be issued in the name of the block farms?
Yes, you did. That's what I heard.
That's the sugar, di ba? That's
Decadan,
the
Decadan.
sugar.
The wash, that's the wash sugar, yeah.
About sugar. We're talking here
Yes,
about
yes,
the
yes,
sugar
regardless.
cane.
Yeah, but regardless of the discussion on this particular issue, my question is can a kedan is evidence of ownership
Yes.
of the sugar in the warehouse?
That's
Yes,
correct.
yes.
Now, can a kedan be issued in the name of a black farm
Yes.
unless the black farm is a juridical entity? I'm just asking a question.
They said
Because the black farm, the way I understand it, the black farm is composed of small farms. They
Yeah.
aggregate area of which should
It will
be
be
anywhere from
organized
30 hectares and above, and the ownership of the land remains in the names of the, let's say, top
Farmers.
beneficiaries.
Yeah.
Now, so they constitute a black farm.
Yes.
The question that is in my mind as a lawyer, can you issue an evidence of ownership, which is the kedan, to the black farm, which, from my understanding, is not a juridical person?
Is it a juridical?
Or should you issue the kedan to the different owners of, to the different farmers belonging to the black farm, the different planters belonging to the
Okay.
black farm?
Mr. President, what they do is it's like a juridical entity, but the list of owner is attached in the kedan. They trade the kedan under the black farm, but they list also the list of owners in the black farm. Parang
So therefore,
so they can trade as one, di ba? Because it will be better for them to trade as
No,
one.
there is no question. In other words, we're saying that the kedans will be in the name of the black farm, which I
Yes.
assume has a name,
Yes.
and then the members of the black farm are named in the kedan.
In the kedan. Ganun ba? Yeah.
If questions arise out of transactions from the kedan, who would have authority to make decisions on questions arising from the transactions in the kedan?
May-ari nga naman. Tapos nakalist naman doon. Then SRA will decide kung sino ang, if there will be questions.
If, for example,
Mr.
the sugar covered by the kedan is no longer there, who is responsible for it?
Mr. President.
the warehouse.
yeah. Mr. President, the industry is saying that they are practicing it now in the black farms. They in the black farm kedan, they're practicing it now that the names of the owners are listed also. They have a black farm name and the names of the owners are listed.
Yeah, all right. I just wanted to spread it on the record. Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you,
Sponsor.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. On line 10, there is a phrase, socialized credit. Would you define for the record, Mr. President, may we know the definition of socialized credit?
In this program, di ba Land Bank? Land Bank will take care of that portion of the fund which will be given away as socialized credit. And I think the socialized credit means that they will be given low interest rate.
So that's the essence. The definition of socialized credit is
Low
lower than
interest.
market rates.
Yes.
All right.
Because if we look at the study why the Philippine crops are not competitive, there are two reasons. Why is the lack of mechanization, which makes the labor costs very high, and the high cost of capital. So we are trying to correct that here.
Well, that's only two of them.
Yes.
You must know how to plant also.
So we have, Mr. President, an allocation for research and development.
Now, Mr. President, line 12 reads, socialized credit shall be made available through the land bank. Does this mean that the SRA will now provide the land bank with funds?
Yeah, from the
Or-
sugar industry
Or they're
fund.
expecting the land bank to set aside?
No, there is we're creating a sugar industry fund, and 30% of that would go to socialized credit, and that would be implemented by the land bank.
So therefore, the land bank, we assume, will have branches in all these towns where sugar is being grown.
Not necessarily. If it's in Bacolod, they can. If it's Negros, they can go to Bacolod. I don't think
That
we-
would be difficult for a fellow who has only 5 hectares.
So I
Let's
think
say
the
you're in
SR
Villahermosa or you're in...
Black Farm na nga eh. They have a manager, Black Farm.
so the credit will be extended to the block farm,
To
or
the
the
block
credit
farm.
will be
To the
extended
block
to,
farm.
to,
To the Black
to
Farm.
the block farm itself?
No.
And they can also give to individual farmers. But in a block farm, you have a manager, and I think the manager will help the farmers do this. That's the reason we have managers.
Well, definitely he will help, but I don't think he will accompany the farmer.
I think so.
If that one farmer has to go 150 kilometers away. But anyway,
I think we will have to arrange something to make this effective.
all right. Now, this socialized credit, will this be in the form of crop loans?
Yes.
Loans for purchase
machinery,
of machinery,
machineries,
which will
yes.
be a developmental type of loan payable in
Yes.
so many more years. So the socialized credit will be made available to the block farm, and the block farm will thus be able to qualify for a loan to help finance a purchase of, say, a tractor, repayable in so many years. Now,
Yes. And
here's-
we are trying to do a system also, Mr. President, wherein the ordinary the farmers can become service providers. Like we don't have to buy. Some farmers would be able to borrow from the institution, so they can be service providers to the farmers, and that is another business for them. They can the farmers are not anymore manual farmers, but mechanized farmers. Para ba yung ating mga naglilinis ng ating mga building, hindi na sila naglilinis, may machinery na sila. Pag halimbawa, gustong magpa-harvest, may harvester, and they can do it better, tuturuan sila maging service provider. Kukontratahin nila yung harvesting, or pwede nilang kontratahin yung pag-planting with the help of machineries. Hindi na yung manual lahat ang ating farm workers. We're trying to be like that in the future.
all right, let me anticipate a practical problem. How long a development loan would you need, say, for purchase of a tractor?
Usually, pag for equipment, parang 5 years, 3 to 5 years,
5 years. Originally, you only had
10
a
years.
3-year life for the block farm. There is no bank that will
No,
give you a loan.
When we say 3 years, if it's not about breaking up the block farm after 3 years. It's just that if you are helping a block farm, they remain a block farm. But if you're helping a block farm and and the block farm is not performing well, there should be some sort of withdrawal. Kasi naman ganyan lahat ang ating help sa ating mga constituency. Pag naman tinutulungan natin sila, tapos hindi naman sila nag-i-improve, there should come a time that we should stop helping them and we should start helping others. Yun lang naman ang meaning nun. We're not breaking up the black farm
So therefore, the black farm can continue to exist.
to exist,
Alright.
except that if they're not doing good, then we review whether it's worthwhile to help them or not. Kasi why are they not performing well?
So
After
then they will perform even worse and have a harder time paying back the bank for the tractor that they bought. Now, how much is a 100 horsepower tractor?
mga
Now,
tractor.
a 100 horsepower tractor is now retailing at 2 million pesos.
It's just
Now,
that
which lender
oo.
will lend Black Farm?
That's why we're accepting your amendment of 6 years.
Yes, but even with 6 years, you see, you might want to buy a second equipment after 3 years.
Yes.
You know.
Siguro naman, if you're going to buy a second equipment, Mr. President, after 3 years, then you must be succeeding.
Yes, but you
Because
don't
you-
always succeed. That's the thing about
You don't.
agriculture. There are years
because
that
of
you
the-
could fail.
Yes.
You know.
That should be a consideration also. It's the SRA which will review their performance. If there's a calamity, then that is understandable that they did not make good because they were victims of calamities. That should be understandable. And that should be a consideration. There is no hard and fast rule on how we analyze the performance of farms, black
Alright.
farms.
Now, on line 15, you have a phrase that says the loan shall be available to sugarcane farmers duly registered with the SRA, provided the lender shall have a lien on the kedan of the farmers that obtained the loan. Now, until the loan is fully paid. Now, this is good for crop loans, where I borrow to plant, and when I harvest, I pay you back. But if it's a development loan, it's a multi-year loan, how can you tie up my kedans? I cannot afford to give you enough kedans to securitize the entire loan.
Yeah. I think this is for output loan, but for
What's an out-
equipment,
what is an output? You mean
the-
a crop loan? They call
yeah,
it a crop loan?
You buy fertilizer,
loan?
you buy seeds and all that.
That's a
But
crop
if
loan,
if you're doing machinery loan, I think the collateral would be the machinery.
If you can find the machinery after.
But we have to take risks. That's why.
So you mean
Uh,
chattel mortgage?
Yeah, chattel mortgage.
Provided that farmers cannot be granted another loan until the loan is fully paid.
I think it's for output loan, yung mga input loan for their
Can we-
planting. Seeds,
Can we write here that these
fertilizer,
are for crop loans?
crop loans? Yeah. Yeah, we accept the amendment.
Now, on line 28, page 3, there's a phrase that reads professional services to these farms. Who pays the salaries of these professionals?
It says here the SRA, the DA, the DAR, Department of Labor and Technical TESDA, state universities and colleges. I think they have programs. We have programs for this kind of things.
Well, it's not the development of the agricultural engineers.
In fact,
or
there's now
agriculturists. I want to know when they develop a program like this, you're going to have to pay them, right?
yeah, I
Who
think
pays them? The
it
SRA,
will-
the
yeah.
DA, the DAR, the DOLE, or is it the farmer that pays
I
them?
think it would be the government agencies. They have nga this
So
program.
this would be in the nature of an extension service.
Yes, yes. And they have programs for these institutions. We are making use of them now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, on page 4, there's a talk of service centers. On line 12, subsection 3, it reads, support the establishment, operation, maintenance of agri-fisheries machinery and equipment service centers as provided in RA 10601. And for this purpose, provide socialized credit to service centers. Now, even service centers are going to enjoy socialized credit. The bank will give up on us.
No, because it is also the problem of mechanization, and this has been pointed out to us by governors of different provinces, that if you mechanize, sometimes these farmers, they do not know how to maintain the machineries. It's important also that we provide support for the maintenance of machineries. Minsan daw, nakatunganga lahat yung machinery doon, tapos hindi na re-repair, hindi nagagamit. So, when you mechanize, you have to also provide for service centers for agricultural machineries, because that is one of our problem also in the field. Na
Yes.
Ang daming binigay through grant or through other programs na agricultural machinery, wala naman nagme-maintain, hindi rin nagagamit. So, our mechanization will fail if it's like that. So, we are giving also incentive for businesses who will specialize in maintaining agricultural machineries.
Right. Service centers exist. These are
Yeah,
the
but
dealers. These are what? If you're going to think of putting up an independent greenfield project called Agri-Service Center, that's a profit center in itself. That's a new enterprise.
I think this will be...
I don't think we have a model for that yet.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to encourage. Siguro naman later on, if they find it profitable, then we can remove this. But in the meantime, if you are uncomfortable that it is written on the law, then maybe we can put it as but I would think that is a real problem. May nagsabi kasi sa aking isang gobernador na yung mga farmer daw nila binigyan ng machinery ng DA, tapos lahat sira na, wala namang nagme-maintain kasi itong mga farmer na to hindi naman marunong mag-maintain. Kinuha daw niya lahat at dinala niya sa kanyang pool at siya ang nagme-maintain lahat, at doon na nagre-request na lang ang farmer kukunin kasi kung sila mag-maintain, hindi nila ma-maintain.
No, we agree. That's not the point.
That's why I think...
The point is you are starting a new type of economic activity
we're starting.
which has not been proven, which may not make money. So even if you gave them socialized credit, you can say goodbye to the money that you lent them.
But,
the dealer on the other hand, it's the actual dealer of the machinery, the one that sold you the tractor, that should be able to help with the maintenance of that. Now, whether he's going to have a roving mechanic, if he has enough volume, he could have a roving Toyota.
But even the dealers
pickup.
whom we buy it from, kasi kung bibili ka naman dun sa mga first class, ang mahal-mahal naman. So we'll be buying yung mga mas mura, and then ang problem nila, they have no service center. So we are now thinking of creating a service center for them so that our mechanization program will be
but your
successful.
service center will not last.
We have to try. Ako kasi, I feel that the money we get, we get from government is supposed to help the poor. And if it is wasted in the process of learning what is good and what is bad, then it's okay, because that is really, we collect money from the rich to give to the poor. So if it is wasted on the poor, it's okay with
No,
me.
it's not whether it's wasted. It's just that if this whole program, if we don't watch it closely, Mr. President, it will just be like several programs of government. It will die a natural death, and people will wonder 10 years from now, what happened to this and what happened to that? So we have to ensure that our collective experience in this chamber will not easily excuse reasons to put up something when it has not been proven. I'm looking at another approach to this, and this is an approach that has been that I saw in Singapore, but I think a lot of countries do it. But I particularly saw this in Singapore, Mr. President. I had talked to some doctors there, and I asked them, why is your cost of medicines here, not cost of medicine, cost of medical care lower than the Philippines? Well, he said there's many reasons for that, although we have a higher salary level here. Look, the government will call every hospital at the beginning of the year and say, I'm ordering CT scans. How many CT scans do you need? And so instead of one hospital ordering one CT scan, just like we have over here, when Makati Med will order one CT scan and be so proud, Singapore will order probably 30 or 40 CT scans and will negotiate on behalf of all those hospitals. So pagkuha nila ng CT scan doon, it's 30%, 40% cheaper than our having to buy it on an individual basis. So what I was thinking is that the SRA should already be ordering tractors by the hundreds instead of one by one. Then you'll be able to get the supplier of those tractors to already put up at least service centers and roving jeeps with a mechanic that can go around and help the farmer. This is just an idea.
So, Mr. President, you don't want to give any socialized credit to this kind of people
I'm
who
in
will
favor of
initiate
giving
to
everybody
this.
socialized credit, but the first thing I look at is that will socialized credit help him survive? If he's not going to survive because the business model is wrong, it's useless giving him masking libre pa.
Mr. President,
Magko-close down
the
yan.
industry said there are existing service providers like MDDC who are profitable. This is not just a service center for maintenance, but also for
All right.
selling.
So there are existing business models for this
there are
already.
existing business models.
But they're profit centers. The
Yes.
owners make money. So there's no need to provide them with socialized credit. But again, I'm
But
more
maybe,
inclined to
Mr. President, if they don't want to put up in a certain place but where we have farmers, then maybe we can give them incentive to put up there, and that is
the
when
branch.
yeah, that's where the socialized credit will be handy. Socialized credit lang naman, hindi naman.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Just a
You
little
will lend
below
them
the
money.
market price.
That's
of
right.
money.
So you
There's-
lend them, they'll have a 2% advantage, and you think that's enough. That's what I'm saying.
But what can
His
we give
his
them?
down payment is going to be substantial. Here, you'll have to put a 50% down
So,
payment
ano gagawin natin?
to get your facilities up. Our banks are not very lenient with us. And
Mr.
rightfully so.
President, I think we have. I will take time to refine this model.
Thank you for that, Mr. President.
I-refine nyo nga yun kung paano gagawin. Tanda mo yun. Kaya lang hindi sa lahat ng lugar meron. It says here the Hawaiian MDDC, Mr. President, in Silay, headed by Mr. Kikoy de la Rama, is a successful service provider.
Yes, but that's in the middle of the city. I'm talking about Gihulngan, I'm talking about
That's
Ballehermoso,
why we have to
I'm
encourage
talking
them
about
to
Toboso,
build
Escalante.
something like
Nobody
their
wants to
model.
go out there.
Yeah, that's why we're encouraging them. We're giving them socialized credit.
Well, if Mr. Dalarama will put up one in Ballehermoso,
Everywhere.
we can ask him because he's over here now. So they were using him as the business model?
Yes.
That's the wrong business model. he's, he's there to serve the rich farmers only, not the poor ones.
is another model. They're giving me the Batangas. There's another model. Maybe Senator Recto knows him. Batangas MDDC. Okay, providing services to small farmers. Huwag mo na sabihin na ASEP. The initial capital was provided by ASEP. Okay. Sugar ASEP. Okay.
Who
Okay.
owns that?
Sino doon?
The association.
Of Mill District.
So they have a captive market, the
Yeah.
association.
Maybe that is a good model also. That we
Yes,
ask
certainly.
the Mill District to establish a service center.
Yes.
Oh, that would be a better model.
Do
We'll
we require them to establish one, or do we?
We encourage them. Mr.
Encourage
President will study that model, and maybe we can get back
Thank
to
you.
you. Okay.
Now, here on line 8, on page 8, line 14, there is a paragraph that reads, the sugar mill, refinery, distillery, and bioethanol facility in the agro-industrial economic zone shall be covered by and comply with the rules, regulations, orders, and circulars of the SRA. Now, I know it says in the economic zone, but why is it necessary for the SRA?
It says here, circulars of SRA, I think it's for the mill, Department of Energy, and other concerned agencies. So it depends upon what the business is.
Why is it necessary to put this phrase in?
Because they might situate.
I mean, they will, when they sign a contract there, they will,
be covered
have to
by PESA.
yes.
Yeah. But why are you putting... Okay. If the sugar mill is in, Mr. President, if the sugar mill is in the PESA, the sugar regulatory SRAs has still the power to regulate the sugar, even if they're in the PESA. And
Okay.
I think when they provided for the creation of the PESA, it doesn't mean that the sugar mills who will relocate there, if they are not exporting 50% of their product, they will not be entitled to PESA benefits.
May I know
They
a
might
mill
just
that
want to locate there, but they are not entitled sa PESA.
May I know of a mill that exports 50% of its product?
Kaya nga wala. So sugar mill will not benefit from the PESA. We are thinking that there will be manufacturing companies which can locate in the PESA, which will be exporting their products, and they are the only ones which will be entitled to
That's
PESA
70%
benefits.
export, huh? That's not
70
50.
ba? 70. Okay, 70%. So they will be ruled by the PESA rules.
All right. Now, the sugar mills, they're hard to put up, and they're related to the land where the sugar cane is planted. So you're not going to see many new sugar mills coming up.
Yes.
All right.
So
Would it be
we-
possible under this law for the sugar mill now to apply to PESA to have its own existing mill be declared a PESA? Will they?
That's what we have in mind.
I see. So you're not, because earlier you said the mill who will transfer to the PESA.
If
So now,
there are mills which will situate in the PESA zone na they will not be entitled if they will not be exporting their products. They will
Okay,
not be
now if
exporting
I-
70% of
if it-
their product.
if an existing mill, and we have 28 mills in this country, about 14 refineries. if they apply with a PESA and say, can you make me a PESA? Can you recognize us
Pumayag pa
as
sila
a
ng
PESA?
basta 70%.
Would that be allowed under current law, even without the Sugar Act? Nobody has done it, so obviously not. There's no mill that exports 70%, 50%, 30% of its production.
Maybe
Maximum 5 to 10%.
that should be possible because
Anything's possible.
yeah. So
It's
if
not
you,
probable.
But if the mills would be able to do that, then I think they deserve to be given the benefits given to PESA. By
If the mill
PESA,
will be able to export
70%.
70%, that means they'll have something to teach us. Because that means they've been able to have a production cost lower than the export price.
Yes.
What is the export price now? What's world sugar?
Ano? 20
700, 800? On,
700
What's it?
per bag. 700 pesos per bag.
per
Bag.
bag.
Oh, yeah.
That's refined, no?
Yes. Raw.
That's raw?
Yes.
700 pesos per bag raw. Our production is 2.5 million
Yes.
metric tons.
Yes.
How many bags is that? One metric ton is about what? 40 bags?
20 bags. Diba?
I mean 20 bags, I'm sorry.
20 bags.
All
So,
right.
50 million.
All right. So therefore, I think it'll be 100 years before we will see a mill.
This law is only for 10 years,
Export.
ba?
If we see a mill
We'll ask our children to make that law.
50%, even 50%, even 30% of their production. On the next page, Mr. President,
Then, page 9. Page 9. Oh, page 9.
page 9, yes. Section 11, line 24. The section reads, value-added tax, 0% on refined sugar for export. I think that should be reworded VAT zero rated instead of 0%. VAT zero rated. But anyway, it further reads, pursuant to Section 106 of the National Internal Revenue Code, VAT 0% shall be imposed on refined sugar withdrawn from warehouses for actual physical export to the world market. What's the reason for this section, Mr. President?
The provision intends to implement the VAT zero rate for refined sugar for export because BIR does not apply VAT zero on refined sugar for export. So,
I don't
BIR
understand.
requires refined sugar for export to pay advance VAT through a revenue regulation.
So the moment the sugar leaves the warehouse of the refinery, it's already vatted.
Yes.
All right. And even if it's for export, the BIR collects advance VAT.
Yes.
So what you want to do now with this provision is that pag sinabi namin that's for export, do not collect advance VAT. Diba? Right. Now, there's the phrase here, for actual physical export to the world market. How do you prove that now to the BIR? You will show the export permit.
It's a certification of the SRA that it is
No,
actually
no, no.
for
That's on the
physical
exemption
export.
from. That's on the exemption. But how will the SRA know? The SRA does not have people at every. Do you have people at every port in the country?
They are monitoring every port.
But this is different. This is actually certifying.
That
Monitoring is different.
But they will certify. They
They
will
will-
certify that it is for export.
They will certify at the warehouse that it is for export in order to be granted
Warehouse or sa
exemption
port.
from
Paano
paying
kung hindi
advance
lumabas
VAT,
sa
di ba?
port?
But how would the BIR know that it was actually exported?
It's the SRA. They will monitor from the warehouse to the airport. Ay, to the port. Yung ba ginagawa nila? They're doing it now.
Okay. Now, would this not be subject to
Abuses.
what? All right, I see the point because essentially it takes a long time siguro to get a refund from the BIR. All right.
What if the sugar
What?
ends up? What if the sugar coming out of the warehouse for which is zero batted actually ends up in the domestic market?
Well,
That
there's
is-
always that reverse smuggling, Mr. President, if I
That's-
might answer.
Well,
It
that's
happens in the tobacco industry. They say it's for export, then they will land it in Cebu or they'll land it in Zamboanga.
Mr. President, if I may make a comment, I think of all the industries I have looked into in agriculture, I think the most responsible is the sugar industry. I have to give them that compared to the others.
Well, I know I'm familiar with the concern of the President, but in any case, they will get that refund. It's just delayed. It's like lending money to the BIR interest-free, because the BIR never pays interest. So it might take you 1 or 2 years to get it back.
Okay.
If they wanted to smuggle it, they would still get the refund because you have no knowledge that they brought it back into the country and save 12%.
In addition, Mr. President, the SRA has penalties for this kind of actions, and they really watch over this because they exact penalties on this kind of practice.
What kind of penalties are we talking about?
What are your penalties? Meron ba?
I know you have a
Ano
tough
nakalagay?
chairman, but I mean, what kind of penalties does she exact?
200 per bag. They said they charge 200 pesos per bag and they canceled the licenses.
They cancel the export license.
Licenses, yes. And the registration of the company to be able to export.
If you can catch them.
Yeah, they're monitoring now from the warehouse to the port.
Yes, from the warehouse to the port. Then it leaves the port. And it lands it leaves Negros. Then it lands in Leyte. How do you monitor all of the ports?
But if you will land in another port, then you have to have a permit also. That is import na lang. Import naman. Anything that will land in another port.
Is batted.
Yeah. Diba? Diba?
If
Pag
it-
if you're not supposed to land in any port nang wala kang import permit. So they will ask you for import permit.
You ask the guys who bring in the oil. All right, on page 10,
Lahat naman yan, pagkasabong.
the line 19, Your Honor. there's the value added tax. No, sorry, line 17. The sugar fund shall be constituted and collected from the proceeds of 15% of, then it writes, the value added tax on the sale or importation of refined sugar and products derived from sugar cane. 2, tariff collected on the importation of raw sugar, refined sugar, pre-mixed sugar. Now, Mr. President, do we have a computation on how much is going to be expected to be collected?
Yes, Mr. President, the industry has a computation of more or less 400 million a year. Saan ba yun?
Yes. May we know the sources of funds? May we have a breakdown of the sources of funds, please?
Saan ba yun? Nawala na. Nawala yun. For a while, I'm just looking at my notes. Nasaan yung computation? Nawala. It's assumption of domestically refined sugar, 20 million bags, and the VAT is 2.2 billion, and 15% is 300 million. And another one is the VAT from imported sugar, around 700 million, and 15% of that.
Why do we import sugar?
There is an importation of sugar. Wala yung
How much sugar?
meron yung premix, and mostly used by food processor. They buy from abroad. And some of them are premix.
All right.
So there is importation of sugar.
Now let me go to the heart of this. Anyway, you can give me the breakdown
Yes.
later. Let me go to the heart of this bill. Thai sugar. How
Yes.
much Thai sugar has been brought into the country in the last 12 months?
Meron man tayo sugar. This is I don't have the detail of where it came from, but it's 2 billion ang volume of imports of refined sugar, and premix sugar is around magkano yung premix? It's 84 million. 84 million. So there is imported sugar. We cannot
Yes, but
just
what is it in metric tons or in thousands of metric tons, please?
it's
And what's the landed value here? What's the
it's
value per bag?
55,964 metric tons at million. No, 55,964 metric tons at 1,782 per bag. It's almost 2 billion pesos.
1,700 what?
82.
1,700 pesos per bag?
Yes.
That must be refined.
Yes, refined.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would be the equivalent of that in raw? See, we have been computing raw sugar to
Ano
now,
ang computation sa raw?
and the quotation I asked earlier from you was given to me 700 pesos per bag of raw sugar, world market, diba?
So, sa raw daw is 1.2.
1.2.
1.282.
But earlier when I asked the good sponsor, the world market price, they said was 700. So Thai sugar is coming in at a premium over world market.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because there is less shipping costs coming from Thailand.
Give me the cost then, all in shipping. It's not gonna be worth that difference. I mean, why would I, if I wanted to bring in sugar from abroad, why would I buy from Thailand if I can buy in the world market at a much lower price? The shipping cost will be what? About 20, 30 pesos a bag?
The 700 is mill gate price and this one is landed cost. No, they are asking if magkano sa Thailand, yung Thailand sugar.
The session is suspended for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tinatanong nyo yung Thai sugar, how is it competitive sa world? Why are we buying Thai kung mura sa world? Ang Thai sugar is 15 pesos per kilo, 14 cents, 13 per kilo. 13, no, yeah, 13 pesos per kilo. Kasi 14 cents eh. That's 13.24 per kilo. 3 times 50. Oh. It's the same with the world market, even if they produce it at a more expensive line. Mr. President, can I resume now?
Session is resumed.
The Thai sugar they sell to the Philippines at the world prices, because usually what they sell to the Philippines is in excess of what they produce. They need, so they just price it as what the price in the world market is. So we buy from them also because they're competitive.
We buy from them because
The price
we
is
are
the
short
same.
in producing for our own market.
No.
Do we displace anything? We produce, say, 2.5 million metric tons.
Yeah, but these private companies, they buy because I think
So
it's
therefore,
for their purposes,
short
it's
pa tayo.
cheaper. No.
We don't
And
produce
for
enough.
export.
How much do we
No, we
export?
produce enough, but there's still
150,000 tons, 200,000. How much do we export?
Parang 150.
150,000 tons,
Yes.
out of which about over 100,000 tons goes to the United States. So that's A sugar, no? All
Yes.
right. How much do we import?
It's 50.
50,000 metric tons lang?
Yeah.
Huh?
56,000.
56,000 metric tons. 55,964 metric tons. Okay. So we're barely producing enough for our own. Very good. Is the sponsor tired or?
No. If you want to finish this, I'm okay. My mind is not working anymore.
Now, I know that there's an element here for R&D,
Yes.
which is the
30.
key
30%.
to higher production. What's our average now per hectare? How many ton canes per hectare do we average?
The Philippine sugar industry, 60 tons per hectare.
And the world average is about 70. Thailand's
yeah.
about 74, no?
75,
Huh?
yes. Yeah, 75.
What about purity? Anong puresa dito sa Thailand?
Fury. Tayo, o sila. 1.96 bags per ton daw, and theirs is 2.1. Yeah.
Who's at 2.2?
2.1. Yeah. Ano ba? 2.1? 2.1 ang Thailand.
And ours is
1.96.
1.96.
Okay.
So we're not too far off there.
I think with this bill, we're almost there. We're as competitive. We can compete with Thailand. I'm very confident with the figures. We're almost there.
For somebody who doesn't grow sugar, I'm glad you have that confidence.
No. I just look at the price the price difference, and then the duty, which is 5%, and the transportation cost of bringing them to the Philippines. It's almost the same now.
Yes. Can I have that breakdown?
Yes.
Can I have that,
Yeah.
that computation now? We went from 18% to 10% this year, right?
Yes,
so
we
now
started at 38 and then
the
28.
imports have to pay 10
Yeah.
from
10
ASEAN,
to
no?
next year it will be 5.
Yes.
So
Now,
I
this
salute
year-
the sugar industry for being able to bring down the duty that fast. That's from 2011 from 38 tapos ngayon next year 5 na lang. I mean, they have done a good job.
They fight with everybody.
Punti mo naman 38% duty tapos naibaba nila
Yes, but
next
I want
year
to
by
know what
5.
has been the effect. How has that affected our market?
But we're doing okay, di ba?
If we're doing okay, then the excuse that a 5% tariff is going to kill the Philippine market is not
No,
true.
they didn't say
If we
that.
were, if the imports had to pay 38% 3 years ago, then it went down what, to 18?
To
And then-
28, then
and then
18,
this year
then
it's
10, then next
there's
year
no-
it will be 5.
There's been no appreciable volume coming in as far as imports
Yes,
are concerned.
Oh,
It's not hurting us.
it's not. Not yet. But,
It's hardly.
we're not that confident, so this bill is only for 10 years, so why not give it to them? It's
No, I'm not asking for some easy answers. I'm really looking at this from the economic point of view. Why is it that despite the big drop in tariff, there's been no appreciable entry from the foreign market, particularly Thailand?
Mhm. Yeah, but the price difference is not that it's not that far, di ba? I think Thailand is, Mr. President, is really selling its sugar to Indonesia more than us. I mean, it has a big market in Indonesia. So they are not eyeing us as their big market.
I'm really sorry that I cannot accept that answer. You know, we're all
Enterprise-
subject to the laws of supply and demand. The supply is out there. I was just
But,
told that Indonesia exports what, 8 million metric tons.
No, they buy
It,
from
ex-
Thailand.
it has
di
a
ba?
price that is close to world market price, which is about what, about on a raw sugar basis, on a per bag basis, maybe there's a difference of 200, 300 pesos per bag.
Parang zero ang export nila, di ba? Indonesia. It says here, zero export, Indonesia. Wala silang export. They buy from Thailand.
No, I'm not talking about Indonesia at all.
So,
Ang sinasabi ko lang po, malaki pa yung diferensya between Thai sugar and Philippine sugar.
So, before they come, smuggled sugar. But now they do not. They call ask for recess, Mr. President.
1 minute suspend.
Pag-compare mo ba prices?
Teka muna, we have to close. Cynthia.
Mang-wise na tayo. Okay, so, okay? Then, oh, ano ba? Mr. President, we can now proceed.
Session is resumed. The sponsor, Senator Villar, and Senator Osmeña are once more recognized. Are there more questions on the period of interpellation, Senator Osmeña?
May I stop my interpellation at this time and move that I be allowed to continue next Tuesday, a week from today, to wind up. And I would like to thank the graciousness of the sponsor for having tolerated all our questions for the past hour and a half.
All right.
I move that we suspend then the period of interpellation at this time.
The period of any objection? Hearing none.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. President. I just would like to manifest that I would like to be made a co-author of Senate Bill 2400.
All right. At the appropriate time, we will.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Incorporate all those. I mean, we will put on record all those senators who would want to be co-authors. Okay. At this point, the period of interpellation on Senate Bill 2400 is hereby suspended, and consideration of the measure is hereby suspended. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I think there's a motion for Senator Ginggona to be a
We will take that up at the appropriate time so that all the others who may want to be co-sponsors will be included as co-sponsors or co-authors in one session.
Thank you, Mr. President. Right now, Mr. President, I move that we consider resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2272 under Committee Report number 52. This is the CARP Land Acquisition and Distribution Bill.
No. Oh, okay. There is a motion that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2278 under Committee Report number 52. Any objection? Hearing none. Consideration of the measure is in order.
Mr. President, the status of the measure is that we are now in the period of interpellation. I thus move that you recognize the sponsor, Senator Greg Hunasan, and to interpolate, I move that we recognize Senator J.V. Ejercito.
Senator Ejercito is recognized on the period. Senator Hunasan is recognized as the principal sponsor, and for the period of interpellation, Senator Ejercito is recognized.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. President. If the gentleman from Sorsogon we will yield to some questions.
With pleasure, Mr. President, from the gentleman from San Juan and the Republic.
Yes, Mr. President. Your Honor, in Section 2 of the bill, it states that the DAR shall continue to issue notices of coverage of agricultural lands covered by RA 6657 as amended until June 30, 2016. My question, Your Honor, is when did the CARP law expire?
Mr. President, the Carper law
yes.
expired last June 30, 2014. But in Section 30, which is the basis actually for this proposed amendment, the procedure commences when the notices of coverage are issued. So that is one basis, Mr. President. The second basis is the executive directive articulated by no less than the President that we should complete the distribution of all agricultural lands by June 30, 2016. So the proposed measure simply provides a legal cover for this extension, so-called extension or coverage.
Thank you, Your Honor, Mr. President. And last question, Your Honor, if the CARP law has expired and Senate Bill 2278 is premised on the CARP law, how can we pass this bill into law, especially when CARP law no longer exists?
Mr. President, the law does not, in effect, expire. It is a continuing process until the acquisition and distribution is terminated. From the Department of Agrarian Reform, we have observed, based on the reporting system, that the most convenient effort was to redistribute government lands. And there has been some resistance from the substantial land holdings. This measure also proposes to cover this so that we can, in effect, adhere to the spirit of the law, which is actually meant to address not only the social issue of acquisition and redistribution of land, but redistributing the means of production. So, productivity po, Mr. President, ang issue rito. Second, in the Constitution, it will allow us to jumpstart the other component of development, which is not only land acquisition and distribution and productivity, but industrialization. So, masusunod po rito yung spirit of the Constitution, Mr. President.
That's all. Thank you for the clarification, Your Honor. That's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
no other senator has indicated their intention to interpolate, so I move that we close the period of interpolation.
The committee report indicates the Majority Leader making a reservation on to interpolate. Does that he has indicated that he will no longer interpolate, or is just is this reservation a continuing reservation? No.
Mr. President, I am being informed by the Secretariat that there is no intention to interpolate anymore from the Majority Floor Leader.
All right. All right. With that of record, there is a motion to terminate the period of interpolation. Any objection? Here.
Mr. President, at this point, I move that we open the period of committee amendments for Senate Bill number 2278 under Committee Report number 52.
Any objection? Hearing none, the period for committee amendments is in order.
And I move that we recognize the principal author, Senator Greg Honasan, to introduce the committee amendments.
Senator Honasan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, your committee only has one committee amendment to Senate Bill number 2278 under Committee Report number 52. On page 2, line 5, your committee proposes to insert a new section 4 to read as follows. Section 4. The term of the Congressional Oversight Committee on Agrarian Reform, or the COCAR. The term of the COCAR shall end 6 months after June 30, 2016. And we propose to renumber the succeeding sections accordingly. We submit, Mr. President.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none.
Yes, Mr. President. As that is the only committee amendment,
That is correct, Mr. President.
we move to close the period of committee amendments. Mr. President, for Senate Bill...
Period for committee amendments terminated?
Yes. Mr. President, we'd like to move on, if that's okay. We'd like to resume consideration of Senate Bill number...
Can we first suspend?
Yes, I move that we suspend the consideration of Senate Bill number 2278 under Committee Report number 52.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2161 under Committee Report number 55. This is the QCDA Bill, or Quezon City Development Authority Bill.
The consideration of the measure is in order.
Mr. President, with the period of general debates closed, I move that we open the period of committee amendments.
If the records will show that the period for committee amendments was already commenced in the previous session, so we'll just continue with we'll just resume the period for committee amendments.
Yes, Mr. President. Just for formality, I move that we resume the period of committee amendments.
In order, as the principal sponsor is recognized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. On page 2, line 5, delete the word refer after word consultation and replace it with the word refers.
Any objection? Do not approve.
On page 3, line 7, change the word no after the word otherwise and replace it with the word known.
Any objection? Do not approve.
On the same page, line 12, delete period and the word it and replace it with comma. Which?
The period is replaced with the comma and the word it with the word shall.
Shall.
Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
Approved.
On the same page, delete lines 14 to 15.
Okay, any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On line 17, delete the word covered and replace it with the word govern.
Any objection? Hearing none.
On line 21, delete number 5 after the word section and replace it with with number 6. The explanation, Mr. President, section 6 objectives will now become section 5. The original section 5, socialized housing development as primary mandate, which defines the activities of the QCD, will now become section 6. We have interchanged the two sections, Mr. President, for coherence.
Okay. Any objection? Hearing none.
On line 21, delete the period after the word development and insert the words as primary mandate.
Is it line 21 on page 3? Is that
Yes, Mr. President.
what is the amendment again, sir?
Delete the word period after the word development
And
insert the words as primary mandate.
so the title of the section becomes socialized housing development.
Minute suspension, Mr. President.
1 minute suspension.
Pinanta natin, para ng coherent. Resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Section 6 will now read as follows. Socialized housing development as primary mandate. The QCD shall be primarily mandated to develop socialized housing and pursue urban renewal to be accomplished in any of the following.
So, how will the provision read now? Socialized housing development as primary mandate.
Yes, Mr. President.
And then it continues, the QCDA shall maintain as its primary focus, or is it mandate?
QCD shall maintain as its primary focus.
Anyway, see, if that's the amendment of the committee, any objection, hearing none, approved.
On line 23, Mr. delete the words which may be and replace it with the words to be.
Objection, hearing none, approved.
On lines 28 to 29, delete the word slum and insert the phrase of informal settlement areas after the word upgrading.
Any objection, hearing none, approved.
On lines 28 to 29, delete the word and between development and environmental.
Any objection, hearing none, approved.
Hence, subsection B of section 5 under socialized housing development will now be read as follows. Let there be upgrading of blighted areas or renewal of areas for priority development, environmental improvement, and resettlement program.
Any objection, hearing none, approved.
On line 31, delete the phrase squatters and after the word including.
Any objection?
On line 39, renumber section 6 as section 5.
Approved.
On page 4, line 7 to 8, delete the phrase 1 billion pesos and replace it with 2 billion pesos.
No objection, hearing none, approved.
On line 7 to 8, after the words divided into, delete the phrase 1 billion.
Yeah, okay.
Delete the phrase 1 billion shares and replace it with 2 billion.
No, you maintain the shares. So,
Yes, Your Honor.
So the words and figures will be 2 billion shares.
Correct, Mr. President.
Any objection, Your Honor? Approve.
On the same page, line 9, delete the comma after the word government and replace it with a period. Then delete the phrases thereafter beginning in the phrase the initial payment in line 9 all the way up to line 17.
All right. And, okay. Delete the, can we have the amendment again, please? On line?
Delete the comma after the word government.
No, on line 9.
Line 9, yes, sir.
Okay.
Delete the comma after the word government and replace it with a period.
Okay.
Then delete the phrases thereafter beginning in the phrase the initial payment in line 9 all the way up to line 17.
Up to line 17. Okay. Now, what happened to that amendment which we discussed in the course of the debate about the amendment of the phrase which shall be fully subscribed? We thought that the basic objection was that we are appropriating by law the funds of the local government, and that was objected to. Is there no amendment on line 9?
Mr. President, that will be the next. On line 9, we propose to delete the phrase shall be fully subscribed and replace it with may be available for subscription.
I'm sorry?
On line 9, Mr. President, we
Yes.
delete the phrase shall be fully subscribed and replace it with may be available for subscription.
May be available for all right. Which may, okay, any objection? So the line 9 will now read which may be available for subscription by the Quezon City government, period.
That is correct, Mr. President.
And then delete the rest of the provision up to line 17.
That is correct, Mr. President.
An objection is not approved.
On the same page, delete lines 26 to 29. B. Upgrade, renew, or redevelop slums and other blighted urban communities. Develop settlement sites, whether in city or outside Quezon City, with due consideration to ecological balance and in general enhance and promote urban development in Quezon City. And replace it with promote urban housing communities development of Quezon City with due consideration to ecological balance and geohazard assessment.
And any objection here and approved. Can the chair, with the permission of the chamber, have a 1-minute suspension? Session is resumed.
Mr. President, on line 31, delete the word purchase.
Which page?
Page 4, Mr. President.
Line 31.
Delete the word purchase and replace it with the word acquire.
All right. Any objection here?
On line 31 also, delete the phrase build, alter, construct, erect, enlarge, occupy, and insert the word and before the word manage.
Acquire and manage. Any objection here?
On line 32, delete the phrase or otherwise deal in.
Objection not approved.
On line 33, delete the word whatsoever.
Any objection here? Not approved.
On lines 41 to 42, delete the phrase and use the same.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On line 44, delete the phrase accept investments, enter into, and replace it with the word and.
So it will now read enter into joint ventures
And partnerships.
and partnerships. Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On lines 45 to 46, delete the phrase and perform such other acts necessary to effect the policies and achieve objectives herein declared, and replace it with the phrase to allow investments.
Approved.
On lines 48 to 49, delete the phrase formulate and implement, and replace it with review for possible implementation.
Approved.
On page 5, lines 3 to 4, delete the phrase to protect and conserve unique, vital, and sensitive ecosystems, watershed areas, scenic landscapes, and cultural sites.
We delete that provision.
Yes, Mr. President.
Does that mean that they do not have to protect, conserve cultural sites?
I think we can retain it, Mr. President, because it's part of the QCDA's mandate is really to protect the environment. So
That's correct. Yes.
Yes, we can retain it, Mr. President.
Yes. Okay.
On lines 5 to 6, delete the phrase in terms of capital expenditures, lands, expertise, financing, and other facilities for the sustained growth of Quezon City, and replace it with and funding support for that purpose.
Approved.
On lines 8 to 9, delete the entire subsection J.
Any objection? Approved.
On line 11, replace subsection K with subsection J.
Any objection? Approved.
On line 11, delete the phrase and all kinds of.
Approved.
On lines 12 to 13, delete the phrase turned over to the QCDA by the national government and replace it with acquired by the QCDA.
So how does, okay, approved. How does the sentence now read?
Minute suspension, Mr. President.
Suspended for 1 minute.
I'm ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
It will now read, develop, improve, administer, subdivide, or lease any lands, buildings, estates, and other forms of real property acquired by the QCDA.
All right. Approved.
On line 15, page page 5. Subsection 1 is replaced with subsection L, sorry, Mr. President. Subsection L is replaced with subsection K.
Approved.
On line 16, delete the word and comma.
Approved.
On line 18, subsection M is replaced with subsection L.
Approved.
On line 19, insert semicolon and after the word Philippines.
Approved.
After subsection 1, insert subsection Mr. President. After subsection L, insert subsection M with the following sentence. perform such other acts necessary to effect the policies and achieve the objectives herein declared.
Approved.
On line 25, insert the words ex officio and between the words as and chairperson.
Can I have that again? Can the chair have that again, Mr. Sponsor?
Insert the words ex officio and
on
line 25, Mr. President.
line 25, all right?
Insert the words ex officio and between the words as and chairperson. So just insert the word ex officio, Mr. President.
The Quezon City Administrator ex officio.
As ex officio.
As
Ex officio and as chairperson and chairperson.
As ex officio. All right. Any objection and approved.
On line 27,
Mr. President,
We don't have to indicate ex officio. The fact that they are being named by virtue of their position is in itself ex officio.
precisely, Mr. President, that was I rose to ask the sponsor if we can just retain as chairperson.
The description of ex officio is by virtue of the fact that he is chairman because he is the Quezon City Administrator. So we do not have to place ex officio.
yes,
that's the
accepted,
only
Mr.
purpose.
President.
So it should read the Quezon City Administrator as chairperson.
As chair.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the amendment on line 25 is withdrawn.
Withdrawn, yes.
The amendment on line 27 is withdrawn.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, can you proceed now to the next amendment?
On line 42, delete the phrase every member and replace it with the phrase the non-ex officio members.
All right. Any objection here on approval?
On line 46, delete the phrase the members of the board and replace it with the word they.
With the word?
They.
They.
They shall be appointed. On line 49, delete the phrase give primacy to and replace it with the word forward.
I'm sorry?
Line 49, Mr. President.
Yeah, for the record, what is the amendment?
Delete the phrase give primacy to and replace it with the word forward. So it will read, Mr. President, provided that in all board positions, the GCG shall forward the nominees recommended by the City Mayor and the City Council of Quezon City.
All right. So the GCG will just be will have a ministerial duty. The GCG cannot examine the nominees. Is that the import of the provision?
Yes, Mr. President.
And so how do they determine that the nominees qualify under the fit and proper rule? Which is found on line 42. Every member of the board must be qualified by the fit and proper rule as determined by the GCG.
Minute suspension, Mr. President.
1 minute suspension.
Entertain na lang yung sa GCG yan. Tama yan.
All right. Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I withdraw the amendment.
All right. The proposed amendment on 949 is withdrawn. We can now go to page 6.
Still on page 45, Mr. President.
On, sorry?
Page 5.
Page 5, yes.
On line 50.
Oh, okay.
Insert comma after the word Quezon City.
Mm-hmm.
Recommending at least 3 names for every vacant position.
All right.
And then connect, still on page 5, Mr. President, the last, connect line 44 and 46 to form one paragraph. Therefore, it should now be read as every non-ex officio member of the board must be qualified by the fit and proper rule as determined by the GCG in accordance with the provisions of Republic Act number 10149. They shall be appointed by the President of the Philippines from a shortlist submitted by the GCG in accordance with the provisions of Republic Act number 10149, provided that in all board positions, the GCG shall forward the nominees. I stand corrected. Shall give primacy to the nominees recommended by the City Mayor and the City Council of Quezon City recommending at least 3 names for every vacant position.
All right. May the chair propose some amendment as a matter of form? Instead of saying every non-ex officio member, can we just say appointive members of the board? Appointive members of the board.
Yes, Mr. President, accepted.
Must be qualified,
Appointed.
etc.
Appointive.
Yes. And all right. Any objection? If that amendment is accepted, approve.
On page 6, delete lines 2 to 15. The following are the deleted provisions. The board shall elect a presiding officer in the absence of the chairperson. The general manager shall be elected by the members of the board from among the ranks. The general manager must possess either a career service executive eligibility or career executive service officer eligibility. Number 2, a postgraduate degree related to law, management, or public administration, or a minimum of 10 years of management experience, and must be a recognized authority in housing or related field. The
So these lines are being deleted.
Yes, yes.
So
Mr.
can you
President.
just point the lines that will be deleted without reading the text?
Okay.
Yes, please.
From lines 2 to 15.
Lines 2 to 15 on page 6.
Page 6, Mr.
Is
President.
being deleted. All right. Any objection? Hearing none. Approved.
On line 34, delete comma and the word to prescribe after the word formulate, and insert the phrase policies develop programs. On the same line, delete the phrase the implementing. On line 35, delete the phrase required by this act and insert to carry out the powers and functions of QCDA.
Approved.
On page 7, line 28, delete 18 after the word section and replace it with 20. On page 7, line 36, section 11 is renumbered as section 13.
I'm sorry, on line 36.
Yes, I'm sorry. Section 11 is renumbered as section 13.
Approved.
On lines 47 to 49, delete the whole section.
From line 47 to line 49 of page 7. Is being deleted?
Yes, Mr. President. After subsection K of section 10,
Which page are we now?
page 7, Mr. President.
Okay, page 7, line.
Lines after subsection K of section 10, insert the following sections. We will just insert the following sections. Section 11, duties and powers of the chairman of the board. The chairman shall A. Call and preside at the meetings of the board and shall see to it that the policies, programs, and rules and regulations developed and promulgated by it are implemented properly. Letter B. Present for approval by the board. B. Point 1. The annual budget of the administration. Number 2. The rules and regulations needed to carry out the provisions of this act and the amendments thereto. Number 3, other matters which he deems necessary or proper for the effective implementation of this act. And number 4, annual report on the activities and finances of the QCDA pursuant to Section 18 of this act. And letter C, perform such other functions which the board may direct to carry out the provisions of this act.
Before the chair approves the proposed amendment, the chair has a question. The amendment says the duty of the chairman to present for approval of the board the annual budget of the administration. Which is the administration here?
QCDA, di ba? QCDA.
This is the first time I see administration.
Minute suspension, Mr. President. Okay, you ready to resume, Mr. President?
Session is resumed.
The administration is the QCDA, Mr. President. To be clearer, let us replace it the annual budget of the QCDA instead.
It should be QCDA, not the administration.
Yes, Mr. President.
Right. With that amendment, is there any objection here? Approved.
Then insert the following section. Section 12, General Manager. The General Manager shall be elected by the members of the board from their non-ex officio members. The General Manager must possess either, number 1, a career service executive eligibility or career executive service officer eligibility. Number 2, a postgraduate degree related to law, management, or public administration. Or number 3, a minimum of 10 years of management experience and must be a recognized authority in housing or related field. The General Manager shall be the Chief Executive Officer of QCDA and shall be entitled to receive a salary in accordance with the guidelines promulgated by the GCG and shall serve for a fixed term of 1 year unless sooner removed by the board for a cause.
Would the gentleman care to read again the proposed amendment so that it can be precise for purposes of our recording?
Section 12, General Manager. The General Manager shall be elected by members of the board from their non-ex officio members. The General Manager must possess either, number 1, a career service executive eligibility or career executive service officer eligibility. Number 2, a postgraduate degree related to law, management, or public administration, or a minimum of 10 years of management experience and must be a recognized authority in housing or related field. The General Manager shall be the Chief Executive Officer of the QCDA and shall be entitled to receive a salary in accordance with the guidelines promulgated by the GCG and shall serve for a fixed term of 1 year unless sooner removed by the board for a cause.
All right, just to be clarified, just for clarity, the qualifications
Of the General Manager.
of the General Manager that are stated here is an alternative, is not, how do you call this? He can satisfy any one of the 3 qualifications.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. Any objection? Hearing none.
We're already on page 8, Mr. President. On page 8, line 1, subsection D is replaced with subsection C.
Any objection?
On line 10, subsection E is replaced with subsection D.
Any objection?
Subsection F, on line 14, subsection F is replaced with subsection E.
Approved.
On line 15, change semicolon to period. On line 17, section 12 is changed to section 14. On line 33, section 13 is changed to section 15.
Approved.
On page 9, line 3, section 14 is renumbered as section 16. On line 8, delete the words degree of. Degree of. We delete.
Approved.
On line 12, delete the phrase shall be acquired in the following order and replace it with the phrase may be identified from.
Approved.
On line 24, delete the word and comma. On line 26, insert the word and after the word owners and insert subsection G. Then insert the following phrase, any other manner provided for by law. On lines 28 to 30, delete the entire sentence starting from the word where to the word apply. On line 33, section 15, it's renumbered as section 17. On line 36, delete the words undertaken by it after the word projects. On line 41, section 16 is renumbered as section 18. Delete line 42 and replace it with the following shall qualify for the socialized housing program.
Delete the whole of line 42. Is that
Yes, Mr. President, and replace it with the following shall qualify for the socialized housing program. On line 44, delete the words must be. On line 46, delete the words must belong to, then replace it with the words members of. On line 48, delete the word must and replace it with the words those who do.
okay? Prove.
We're already on page 10, Mr. President. On page 10, line 1, delete the word must and replace it with the words those who are.
Those who are not.
Those who are.
Okay, prove.
On the same line, delete the words be a after the word not.
Okay, prove.
And add s to the word squatter. And also another s to the word members. On line 8, delete the phrase our own housing facilities. On line 14, section 17 is renumbered as section 19. Section.
What is the amendment on page on section 18? Section 17?
Yes, Mr. President, we renumber it as section 19.
Just renumber it. Prove.
And then on line 33, section 18 is renumbered as section 20.
Prove.
On line 35, delete the word to.
Prove.
We're now on page 11. On page 11, lines 8 to 10, delete the entire section 19 because it is considered as an imposition to the local government of Quezon City by the national government, hence the violation of the local government code, Mr. President.
Which line? I'm sorry. Which lines are this?
Section
No.
19. Sorry. Lines 8 to 10.
Is being deleted.
Yes, Mr. President.
What I mean, may we know the rationale for such deletion? The provision says, in the event the QCDA is dissolved for any reason, all the properties and other assets remaining at the time of such dissolution shall revert to the Quezon City government. What happens then if the QCDA is dissolved? Where will its properties and other assets go to? The only stockholder here is Quezon City.
Yes, Your Honor.
May we know the rationale of deleting this?
Mr. President, we just withdraw the amendment.
All right, the amendment is withdrawn.
On line 12, section 20 is renumbered as section 21. On line 16 to 21, delete the entire section. Delete the entire section 21,
Yes.
transitory provision, because it is considered as an imposition, again, an imposition to the local government of Quezon City by the national government. That's all, Mr. President, for the committee amendment.
Before the chair has a question. A very critical authority power is the power to issue bonds and power to borrow. Would this require national government guarantee? Is it contemplated that national government guarantee shall be secured at any instance?
Minute suspension, Mr. President.
Yes.
Wala nakalagay GC. Anong ano nun? Hindi ko government. Hindi necessary. Regarding sa insurance. Ano sa ilan? Silent. Are ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, according to the GCG, it is silent, no, with regards to the guarantee.
And therefore, the bond.
It's not really necessary, Mr. President.
Sorry,
Not necessary.
not necessary, but can it be included as a feature of the bond or a debt of or any certificate of indebtedness?
Yes, Mr. President.
And that would require a lot of clearances, including from the Monetary Board, the Department of Finance, because you are imposing an obligation on the part of the national government.
Yes, Mr. President, they have to comply with all the requirements.
Would it be? Would it affect the powers, or would it be contrary to the bill, if to the purposes of the bill, if we clearly specify that at no instance will such bonds or certificates of indebtedness carry the guarantee of the carry the sovereign guarantee, and therefore only the responsibility of the QCDA? Because otherwise, you'll be exposing the theoretically the entire Filipino people to the indebtedness that could be incurred by the QCDA. And
I accept of course, the wisdom of the Senate President is well taken.
And because in previous measures where that provision was not clear, the President vetoed because of that exposure of the national government to obligations arising from bonds issued by the agency. The most recent of which was the effort to corporatize a hospital in Iloilo. That's why I remember that. There was that provision which, in the veto message, cited that particular power to include the guarantee by the national government,
Yes, we.
sovereign guarantee of the national government.
Yes, Mr. President, this representation welcomes and adopts the
Subject to
suggestion
style.
of the Senate President.
Subject to style,
Subject to style.
Section 17, or what is on lines 14 to 31 would be amended to indicate that at no instance
Yes.
will the bonds and other certificates of indebtedness issued by the QCDA carry sovereign guarantee. Subject to style, if that is accepted by the sponsor.
Accepted, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none.
That's all.
That's all, Mr. Majority Floor Leader, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that we close the period of committee amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none. Approved.
I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2161 under Committee Report number 55.
Before the chair acts on that, for purposes of the individual amendments, the Secretariat will prepare a clean copy of the measure carrying the committee amendments approved by the chamber, and that will be the basis of the amendments that may be presented by our colleagues. With that, the consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration
Meron pa?
of Senate Bill number 2278 under Committee Report number 52.
What is this? What the carp? We just suspended for 1 minute. Ano ito? What is this? Huh? Huh? Ano? Sige. Okay.
Mr.
Session is
President.
resumed.
There's a motion to resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2278 under Committee Report number 52.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
Mr. President, no senator has indicated intention for individual amendments, so we are closing the period of individual amendments.
So closed.
Mr. President, I move that we vote on second reading Senate Bill number 2278 under Committee Report number 52.
Any objection? Hearing none. Propose Senate Bill number 2278 is hereby approved on second reading.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2278 under Committee Report number 52.
Suspended.
Mr. President, a few administrative matters. With the consent of the concerned committee chairpersons, I move to transfer the referral of proposed Senate Resolution number 266 entitled Resolution Expressing the Sense of the Senate Urging the Appropriate Agencies to Work Collaboratively in the Immediate Resolution of the Issue of Ownership of the Land currently occupied by the Philippine Children Medical Center with the end view of protecting the basic right of children to health services from the Committee on Rules to the Committee on Health and Demography as its primary referral and to the Committee on Women, Family Relations, and Gender Equality as its secondary referral.
So transferred.
Mr. President, I move to designate Senator Sonny Angara and Alan Cayetano as additional members of the Senate panel in the Bicameral Conference Committee on the conflicting provisions of Senate Bill number 2274, entitled An Act to Expand Access to Education through Open Learning and Distance Education in tertiary levels of education, appropriating funds therefor and for other purposes, and House Bill number 4553, entitled An Act Expanding Access to Educational Services by institutionalizing open distance learning in higher education and appropriating funds therefor.
Any objection? Hearing none, the Senators Angara and
Cayetano.
Cayetano are so designated as members of the BICAM Committee.
Mr. President, I move to designate Senator Sani Angara and Alan Cayetano as additional members of the Senate panel in the Bicameral Conference Committee on the conflicting provisions of Senate Bill number 1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Suspended for 1 minute.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I withdraw the beginnings of that motion and instead move to designate Senators Pia Cayetano, Cynthia Villar, Alan Cayetano, Sani Angara, and Vicente Soto as members of the Senate panel in the Bicameral Conference Committee on the conflicting provisions of Senate Bill number 2275, entitled An Act Mandating All State Colleges and Universities to Annually Confer Automatic Admission and provide scholarship grants to the top 10 public high school students of their graduating class and allocate funds therefor, and House Bill number 4860, entitled An Act Providing Scholarship Grants to Top Graduates of All Public High Schools enrolling for their first year in state universities and colleges and appropriating funds therefor.
So designated. Majority Leader?
1 second suspension. 1 minute suspension, Mr. President. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
On a final note, Mr. President, I move to designate Senators Sani Angara and Alan Cayetano as additional members of the Senate panel in the Bicameral Conference Committee on the conflicting provisions of Senate Bill number 2272 and House Bill number 3575, both entitled An Act Strengthening the ladderized interface between technical vocational education and training and higher education. Approved. Mr. President, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of the 17th of September, Wednesday.
Session is adjourned until 3 p.m. of September 17, 2014.